Bad on Bears fans, another edition of the Chicago Bears podcast coming your way. Path designer Jason McKie here on another Friday. And listen, a big hire happening a couple of days ago that can't have a former fullback / running back on the pod and not talk about it. Eric Studesville is in the building. Love the hire. I think this is going to be a big one for the Bears. We got to talk about that with J-Mac. And of course, take a look ahead here. We got the Super Bowl coming up, but after that, the draft is on its way. Where do we need to focus in on? Talk about all that and more in today's episode of the Chicago Bears podcast. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Mac, what's going on, my guy? How you feeling, man?
Man, another day, man. Talking, get to talk some Bears ball, a little bit of draft. Got a coaching clinic coming up. The Glazer Clinic here in Chicago. It's a big coaches clinic, high school coaches, college coaches. Yeah. So
all right. Sounds like a good time, man. Getting all the coaches together, learning a lot, getting to, take a little information from them and go out there and dominate them yet again. J-Mac. That's what I like to see.
Always football.
It's always football around here, 100%. And with the hire of Eric Studesville, or as I like to call him, Studsville, because I think the Bears got a stud here. But Eric Studesville joining the Chicago Bears, they're taking over that running back position. And J-Mac, I love how Ben Johnson has gone about this, going out there and getting a guy that has skins on the wall, right? Yeah. Worked with Marshawn Lynch, worked with Noshawn Moreno. Of course, Devon A-Chain down there in Miami has worked with him. And a lot of people look at this and say, well, yeah, you give a guy good running backs, then it's not as hard to develop that guy into an NFL running back. But I look at it and I say, there's a lot of these guys that may not be NFL running backs without that kind of coaching. And he's had so many different types. It speaks to very much of what the Bears have here. DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai, very different running backs. I think they hit a home run with this hire. What are your thoughts on the hire of Eric Studesville?
Yeah, I like it because you have another coach, right, who's been through the trenches, who's got everything he's earned. He was a GA in Arizona in 91. Yep. He was at North Carolina, Wingate as a DC, Kent State as a DC, was the Bears quality control coach back in 97 through 2000. His first running back coach job was with the Giants. And that's where I actually had, cross paths with him as well when I came out in 2002. So I'm telling you my age. That was his first, he was a running back coach there. And I went up there to the Giants on a pre-draft visit and, had to sit in meetings with Coach Studesville. He showed us around the facility and the stadium and stuff like that. So that was, his first job, thinking about it back then. And then he went on to be the Bills running back coach. He was the Broncos running back coach, also the interim head coach. He was for the last 4 games of that 2010 season. Yeah, and then the Dolphins running back coach and assistant head coach. And then that's when he crossed paths with Ben Johnson for 2 years in 2017 to 2018. And then, obviously landing here. So you got a guy who's got 24, 25 years of overall experience, mostly him being a running back coach. You mentioned those names, right? So, you go down the list of running backs he's coached, right? And we know all these 1,000-yard rushers: Tiki Barber, Willis McGahee, Marshawn Lynch, Fred Jackson, Noshawn Moreno, Raheem Mostert, Devon A-Chain, the latest one. Devon A-Chain was one of the featured backs in the league last year. Yeah. And so was all these guys, during their times in which they were, being under the mentorship and tutelage under Eric Studesville. I think you look at it like this, Pat. And all those guys are 1,000-yard rushers, right? But here's the thing. You can say, well, he had a good running back. Tiki Barber was a good running back. But, hey, all those guys, different systems, right? Different systems, different type of coaching in regards to what type of run scheme they were running. And that takes a lot. All those guys are different kind of runners as well. Tiki Barber's a way different runner than a Marshawn Lynch. Noshawn Moreno's a way different runner than a Devon A-Chain and so on. So I think when you have a guy like Ben Johnson has brought in, who, like you said, Pat, has skins on the wall, has the experience, has been through the trenches, but also as a head coach, you have some familiarity with. You having coached with him 2 years in Miami. It's awesome because now, don't get me wrong, how I feel about Eric Bieniemy. I know how you feel about Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah.
So, but I don't say this to say there's any, disrespect for Eric Bieniemy. I feel like there's going to be no drop off in terms of the continued development of these running backs. And we got some good ones here. We got DeAndre Swift coming off a career year under Eric Bieniemy. You look at the emergence of, Kyle Monangai under Eric Bieniemy, and I think that you bring in a guy who can continue that development, but help those guys take the next step, who has familiarity with head coach Ben Johnson.
Yeah, and that's the part that gets me the most excited about this hire, J-Mac, is it feels like a hire that was made with the kind of backfield you have in mind. Yo, we just got the most out of DeAndre Swift that he's ever had in his NFL career. One of his best seasons, not only just running the football, but also as a receiver. How do we get that again? How do we make sure there isn't any drop off there? Because if there isn't, right, you're talking about possibly keeping DeAndre Swift around for years to come here. On top of that, how do we keep the development of Kyle Monangai going? Over 750 yards last year, really good in the red zone. Didn't see him, kind of towards the end of the season, maybe tapering off and a little bit longer season in the NFL. So maybe there's a little bit of a rookie wall that ends up getting hit. But at the end of the day, a phenomenal season out of Kyle Monangai overall. How do we make sure that we don't take a step back there? To me, that's what makes great head coaches, and not to take anything away from some of the other coaches around the league, but like one of the biggest knocks of Mike Tomlin is he wasn't able to bring in that guy that got the offense enough for you to go out there and win more than the first round in the playoffs, or win in the first round in the playoffs. I think Mike Tomlin is a phenomenal coach. I think he's the kind of leader you want in your building, but that is the part that separates you from those coaches that are the Bill Belichick's and what he was able to do for so long in the NFL, the Andy Reids and what he's been able to do for so long in the NFL. And I get it, right? Like, people look at the head coach and say, well, it all starts with him. As long as you've got him, you're going to be fine. Ask Detroit's head coach that, right? Like, ask John Harbaugh that, right? Great coach, but wasn't always able to replace those position coaches as time went on, and it changed the team dramatically throughout his time. Doesn't mean you can't get back to winning ways.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that Ben Johnson can go from Eric Bieniemy to Eric Studesville, and we can both look at this and go, yeah, like, that's a great running backs coach that you just lost, but that's a phenomenal one that you just brought in. That's what makes coaching staffs great for a long time to come.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing, right, we look at, look at his resume, very impressive. The consistent level of success his running backs have had under his coaching. I think the one thing we got to keep in mind, and one thing it'll be interesting to see, is his coaching style, right? Yeah. And we know with Eric Bieniemy, his coaching style was, obviously real demanding. Didn't hold his tongue. He called Kyle Monangai, and I think you actually captured that video. You captured that video,
like an old ass man.
Yeah, it went viral, and he was like, "Hey, you like exactly ain't gonna hold his tongue. You old ass. You're moving like an old ass man," which was awesome. But it also shows when you have a coach, right, that can say those things, but also, it shows that he has a good chemistry with his players. Because Kyle Monangai, obviously, he's not going to go in the tank. He knows that Coach Bieniemy was trying to, have him take it up a level, or have him, challenged throughout that particular drill. Yeah. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what type of coaching style that Eric Studesville had, that he brings to this running back room, because we know, right, the coaching style that Eric Bieniemy had, it changed the way, and I'll talk about DeAndre Swift, it changed the way he ran this year, right? And when you look at the way he ran this year, Pat, one thing that was different from him under Bieniemy as opposed to the year before under Coach Morton, the line was different, yes. And
make a big part of it, yeah.
That was you, but here's the thing. The way that he ran with more downhill physicality, right? Yeah. And violence. And you saw the results of it. Broke a lot of tackles, made a lot of big plays. And that was the requirement, in this run game. Ben Johnson always talked about their offense's run game, the identity was physicality. And we saw that within the offensive line, and it stemmed into the backfield. So Kyle Monangai, obviously a first-year guy, the only running back coach he had was Eric Bieniemy, and that's the way he ran anyway when he was in college. So we saw that from him. But we really saw that from DeAndre Swift take the next step, and he really took it to another level, and that's why he had a career year. And when you have those guys that have a career year, it just tells you that they were able to respond in taking coaching and then apply it to a game-type environment. And I'm looking forward to see what type of coaching style that Eric Studesville brings to this running back room and how these guys are going to respond to it.
if you have to give a guy like, because I think the Monangai part of this, right? DeAndre Swift has been through this. He's had multiple different running backs, coaches, and things like that. He's a pro, right? And I think he's going to approach it a little bit different than maybe a Kyle Monangai would, because this is his, like you just said, Eric Bieniemy, his first running backs coach, got a ton out of him. If you had to give some advice to him on how to deal with a new coach coming in, what would that be?
You asking me how would Kyle Monangai deal with a new coach?
Yeah, with Kyle Monangai, because this is his first running back coach change.
Yeah, I mean, he's a young guy, so he'll be going into a second year. You got to be open. You got to be open to learning, and there may be, and that's the thing when I talk about coaching style. There's going to be different drills, right, and different ways of doing things in terms of, pass protection and stuff like that, the techniques and fundamentals, because every running back coach has a different way of pass protection. Like there's new ways that these coaches are utilizing in running back pass protection that we didn't do. You know what I mean? So you're always learning. So as a player, I'm pretty sure in terms of the run game, there'll be some changes, but for the most part, the aiming points and landmarks of the running backs will be pretty much the same based upon how Coach Johnson wants that particular run, how he wants that detailed. But in terms of Coach Studesville, it may be little nuances in terms of pass protection, and the drills are going to be different. Some of the lingo and terminology that he's going to utilize will be different from Eric Bieniemy. The personality will be different. Is he going to be more? Is he going to be as demanding? As a Eric Bieniemy. I'm not saying demanding like he's going to be demanding. He's been a successful running back coach, but are you going to? How quick will that chemistry build between him and Monangai and Eric Studesville? You know what I mean? Is he going to continue to help Kyle Monangai take the next step? And I think Kyle's a guy who, he's a guy who he seems like a humble guy. Me being around him, and at the end of the day, same thing with DeAndre Swift. No matter how long you've been in the league, you got to be open to coaching. That's the only way you're going to get better. So at the end of the day, it's a clean slate, new way of doing things, new coach. We got to buy into his way now. And hate to say it, you got to kind of get rid of the old things that Eric Bieniemy taught you, but some of those things will carry over because I'm pretty sure that Eric Studesville, the terminology and some of the details and demands that they have will carry over. So I think I'm looking forward to seeing how that running back room, how these guys gel with their new coach.
Only thing that and the one thing about EB that I think we all loved, right, it was the players all loved it too. They said he was coming from a player perspective that was a very successful player in the NFL. Eric Studesville, unfortunately, didn't have that. He played defensive back at Wisconsin Whitewater, which I know a couple people that played at Wisconsin Whitewater. I know how you get down, Eric. Shout out to you.
Good program. Good program. Great program.
But it's one of those things where it's like, right, coming from somebody who's experienced it, right? Eric Bieniemy can say, hey, when we used to do this versus Denver, this is what we would see, and yada yada yada. And so look for this at this point in the game. You may not be able to get that from Eric Studesville, but it may not be that he can't still relay that point. He's just coming at it from a different perspective. So it'll be interesting to see how this running back group takes that perspective in.
Yeah, and I think here's the thing, right? I think, when you're talking about EB having been a, all-time great collegiate player, having played in the league, he can, the experience, he's coming to you from a coach standpoint, but also from a player standpoint. When you look at Studsville, I get that he didn't necessarily play running back in the league, but the skins are on the wall. He's got the track record of development, and that's the key thing, right? When you're hiring a coach, a position or an assistant coach, right, and he's your running back coach, the whole thing here is being able to develop. We got to be able to outdevelop our competition. Same thing in the league, same thing at every level, from high school to college to the NFL, right? It's being able to develop and outdevelop your competition. And if you have a coach that doesn't have a good track record of development in that particular position group that he's going to be coaching, well, then it's like, well, I can't hire you because whoever you develop. Like Eric Studesville wouldn't be here if he didn't have all these 1,000-yard rushers. Like if he's a guy who's been a running back coach for 25 years but has never had a 1,000-yard rusher, I don't care what scheme you're in, like, what's up? Like, if I'm the head coach looking at you and I'm hiring you and we're doing our interview, I'm like, hey, so, tell me, you've been coached for 25 years. You've been a running back coach for, 10 years or whatever. What has enabled you to not have a 1,000-yard rusher during your tenure as a running back coach? And on the flip side, what has enabled you to have a consistent track record of having 1,000-yard rushers? Well, this is my philosophy. This is how we do things. This is my demands. This is my running back manifesto in terms of my non-negotiables within a running back. Here are my drills, in the run game zone, gap scheme. Here are the everyday drills we do. Here are my ball security drills, and here's what we do in pass protection. You know what I'm saying? So that's all of those things take place throughout a coach's interview. But if you don't have the track record as a coach of having development, then you can't be an assistant coach, especially if you're not a player.
And that's what I love about, how Ben's going about the hiring process here. And I mean, even looking at, where the OC is heading, you mentioned the non-negotiables, right? That was Eric Bieniemy's biggest thing. His non-negotiable was 4.5 up the middle. Yeah. You have to find 4.5 up the middle. He turned DeAndre Swift into a running back that we didn't know, right? Everybody always wanted to put him, hey, you're an outside zone guy, outside zone guy, outside zone guy. DeAndre Swift was pretty good between the tackles this year. He was not willing to go down to first contact. His non-negotiables, I think, really stood out. And that's what gives me so much confidence with Ben Johnson is like, Ben Johnson's non-negotiables don't just fall at the players' feet. It goes to the coaches as well. Hey, we have to be good at this. We have to be able to do this on a consistent basis. And Eric Studesville's getting guys that have kind of been broken in and acclimated to that system. I think it's going to be a fun year for him as well. And I think it's going to be a fun year to me for this offense. Yet again, we got to keep it moving along here. Hit that like button if you haven't done so. Subscribe to the page. Leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Coming up next, I do want to talk to you about this because the OC hire is going to be an interesting one now. And I want to know kind of which direction you want to go to try and replace Declan Doyle. But first, we got to tell guys all about Underdog. Download the app today. Sign up with the promo code CBP. Save $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. There's promo code CBP and playing Underdog. Must be 18 years or older, 19 or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado for some games, 21 or over in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Your roof's got more layers than the Conspiracy Podcast.
Is that a sandwich wrapper?
Ah, yes. Vintage 1988. It really builds character.
Avondale Roofing. Inspect smarter, dig deeper, and get to the core of your roof's health.
There's only 1 week of football left because the Pro Bowl went past, and I don't know what the heck that was anymore.
Bro, I can't even. I had a... Hey, it's bad, it's bad when you say Pro Bowl and we just start laughing, bro. Like for real, bro. Like, and I don't want to cut. I can't. The cuss word, the choice cuss word that I want to use, I'm not going to use it. But what are we doing? What are we doing, bro? Like, come on. Like, here's the thing, and I know we're getting off on the tangent as we always do, but we gotta. Something's got to be said about this.
Something got to be done, J-Mac.
I just think it's And I hate to say back when I played, now I'm just a hater, I'm an old head, blah, blah, blah. Okay, even back before when I played.
It ain't just old head on that one.
The Pro Bowl, it was prestige. So like if you had that Pro Bowl skin on your resume and you earned that opportunity, you were one of the best players in the league, Pat. Yep. Like you're one of the best. Yep. Like you were top 3 at your position. And then if you were an alternate, like you top 2 at your position, if you was an alternate, you were like 3 or 4. You know what I'm saying? And you didn't go. Unless those top 2 guys didn't go, but you had the stats and the criteria, right, and the resume to earn that opportunity to be an alternate, right? You got guys. I mean, we got and listen, I like Shedeur Sanders. I really do. And I don't want to just signal him out, but I'm just saying.
Oh, no, you could throw Justin Fields on there too.
Yeah,
Justin Fields got asked and turned it down. He was like, absolutely not. Y'all not parading me around.
And I like Justin Fields too.
Yes.
You know how I feel about Justin. No, Justin, awesome guy, awesome man. But like, I mean, Shedeur, like you didn't even start all season. Like, how are you at the Pro Bowl? Like, it's a lot of that. And it's just, it's just from a standpoint when you're looking at the NFL, you're looking at the year, you're looking at what the Pro Bowl is supposed to stand for. Like, it's like, let's just call an all-star flag football game. God, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Hey, listen,
what are we doing?
Here's my problem with it, J-Mac. It wasn't even a good flag football game.
Yeah.
By the way, I didn't turn on a second of it, but I went and looked at the highlights. I was like, okay, let me see. It wasn't even a good flag football game.
Man, if they're gonna do that, don't put it on ESPN put it on the Lifetime channel. First of all, put that on the Lifetime.
We can put it on the Ocho, J-Mac. We got enough ESPNs out here.
Man, like it's and it's sad because it's like for me looking at it, the guys who earned that stripe. Right, to their resume, right? Who are able to put that skin on the wall. It's just a disrespect to those guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, and now we're even seeing this with the Hall of Fame. I mean, Bill Belichick doesn't get in. Like, that's a whole nother podcast in the conversation. Like, what in the are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Like, it's really like, you see, I'm getting frustrated because it really, and it's not just me, it's a lot of players it pisses off, but like, that's unbelievable.
It's devaluing the accolades. And I would have to go back, like, to be honest with you, J-Mac, when people bring up Pro Bowls to me, I say, don't tell me he's a Pro Bowler. I could care less.
Doesn't even matter no more. And it's sad because when you look back and you look at the guys who are, Olin Kreutz, a 6-time Pro Bowler, Brian Urlacher, I don't know how many pro, I think Brian had 8. You know what I'm saying? Like, you go back and look at now it's like, that was prestigious. They earned that. Like, those are real Pro Bowlers. Now you look at guys who, I mean, I don't know, man. Some guy, I can't go into it. Anyway, the Pro Bowl's trash juice. That's my take.
No, I think that's a phenomenal take because Brian Urlacher was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-time Pro Bowler. Good call on that.
Lance Briggs,
8-time Pro Bowler. He played 13 years. What I love about that is the Pro Bowl used to be it's Brian Urlacher. It's Brian Freeman. He's one of the greatest linebackers we've ever seen. Yeah. He didn't make it 13 times.
Exactly.
He wasn't an every year Pro Bowler because there were players that outplayed him in certain years that end up getting to the Pro Bowl.
Charles Tillman. How many Charles got? I think Charles has 2, I think. That's how hard it was to get to the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
Nowadays, Charles Tillman would have been a Pro Bowler every year in the NFL in the way they format it.
Because of a name, not because of play, just because he was Peanut Tillman, right?
Yeah.
Peanut was a 2-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro.
Correct.
He had a 13-year career, and there's an entire move that every football team teaches DBs based off of him.
And we're arguing the fact that Peanut Tillman should be in the Hall of Fame. Okay, I get it. But here's the thing. We're arguing the fact that he should be in the Hall of Fame, but it was only a 2-time Pro Bowler because that's how difficult it was to make it. And he made play after play every single year he was in a Bears uniform.
Yeah.
So that just goes to show you got some guys, some DBs that can't even hold Charles Tillman's jockstrap right now at DB in terms of their stats. And they're like 4- and 5-time Pro Bowlers. Make it make sense to me, Pat. Because it doesn't, and you can't.
It's unbelievable. It started with Mitch. Maybe Mitch is the problem. It started with when Mitch got in. We all kind of went, all right,
bro. I come on.
That might be the first one I think where I was like, oh,
this is it's ridiculous now. Like this is ridiculous, man. Like,
hey, it's bad, bro. It's bad. Hey, man, with all that being said, make sure y'all tap into Underdog because there is one real football game left to play. That's what happens when you tune into the Chicago Bears podcast. Your ad read gets mixed in with Pro Bowl hate. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick your favorite player, whether they'll go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, rushing yards, receptions, and more. Get them right, and you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. Underdog, make picks, win money. EOQ, the disclaimer. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back into the Chicago Bears podcast. Pat the designer, Jason McKie, fresh off a Pro Bowl rant. Nothing wrong with that. Chicago Bears podcast brought to you by the Advantage Dealer Group. Find your next Chevy, Toyota, or Acura and drive off in under 60 minutes. They'll make your first car payment. Also brought to you by the Hard Rock Casino in Northern Indiana. Las Vegas style gaming, just 30 minutes from Soldier Field. Exit 6 right off of I-80-94. Although according to Sylvia, it might be a little closer. Coming soon. Might be a little bit closer. Coming soon. We were talking about the coaching staff there, J-Mac, and the hiring of Eric Studesville. With that hiring, when you look at now the offensive coordinator position, what are you looking to bring in? And I know there's a bunch of different names that the Bears have gone with, but what I love about it is you've got some guys that are 50 plus. You've got some guys that are very similar to Declan Doyle, young and upcoming offensive minds. And no matter what, you're pairing them with that mix on this offensive coaching staff. Are you looking for the experience, or are you looking to keep fresh ideas coming in with this OC?
You look, I think, with Ben, I think the thing is if you're looking at this opportunity to be the OC for the Chicago Bears, it's going to be a title. Because at the end of the day, Ben Johnson is calling the plays.
100%.
Ben Johnson's the head coach, but he is the ultimate OC.
Yeah.
And I think the good thing about Declan Doyle is he was a guy that obviously he wasn't a big name, but he didn't have a ton of experience, but he had quality experience being able to learn under, starting in college, Kirk Ferentz at Iowa. Then he went to, offensive assistant with the Saints with Sean Payton. Sean Payton took him to Denver with him, in which he was a tight end coach. And then you get an opportunity to be under Ben Johnson, like two really good offensive minds. Like Sean Payton is like a dog as an offensive guru. Yeah. And he had a chance to learn under him and obviously expand his learning under Ben, and was landing him an OC job with the Baltimore Ravens. But here's the thing. I think Ben's going to be looking for a guy that's willing to do similar tasks that Declan did, right? And it's not calling plays, but it's being able to install and hold a meeting. It's being able to help game plan, to be able to crunch film, to bring ideas, right? Yeah. Overall, in terms of our offense, but he's going to have to do a lot of the legwork that an offensive coordinator would do on a daily basis. But Ben can't do all of those things because Ben is the head coach now. So he has to tend to things for the entire team and not just tailored to the offense in terms of being an offensive coordinator. So I think you're going to have a guy that did a similar, a lot of the tasks that Declan Doyle did.
Yeah, I think, to me, like, I would agree with you on that. And we've kind of seen that. Bears had reached out to Bengals Troy Walters. He declined to interview with the Bears, probably for that very reason, right?
He wants to call plays.
He wants to call plays. He wants to get that opportunity, right, to go out there and be not an offensive coordinator just in name, but an offensive coordinator. And, hey, I have a scheme that works, and I want to implement that. Now, a name that is interesting, interviewing Cardinals assistant, possibly the Bears want to interview Cardinals assistant Connor Senger. And, again, this is a name that, to me, two fronts. I love the interview for a couple of reasons, and even getting into maybe a little bit of the draft conversation that we're going to have here. He called plays for the East-West Shrine Bowl. Mm-hmm. Having that interview alone, I would come in if I'm Ben Johnson and say, all right, well, listen, you head coach the East, or you OC the East-West Shrine Bowl. What'd you see? Who'd you like? What did you feel? What were some of the things that you were looking for? Because this is a coach that has been in a position now where he's going to see what the upcoming draft class is. On top of that, can he? You're seeing an ability to call plays. What do those plays look like? Now you're sitting down in the interview and you're bringing somebody in that may have players in mind that he could bring to this offense that could help you right away. I think that that's a great interview at a minimum for this process. And listen, this may truly be the way. There's a lot of jobs around this NFL where you're not getting play calling opportunities. If you want to move up fast, and Connor Senger is another one very similar to Declan Doyle, viewed as a very smart offensive mind, viewed as somebody who is rising through the ranks very quickly. That would be one where I think the Bears might really want to keep their eye on him and possibly bring him in. And then an in-house name that we haven't talked a ton about, but Press Taylor, who has been an OC before, is also there. Would you rather have somebody who's known the duties of what it is to be an OC already? Because Press Taylor's done that job, and I guess you could say he didn't do it well, but he's also not the guy who's going to be calling plays. So maybe that difference in distinction opens him up a little bit as well.
I think that's interesting when you talk about Press Taylor, right? Having coordinator experience in terms of play calling. But I think it's also important that he understands and he saw firsthand, obviously, what Coach Johnson expected from Declan Doyle. And then he saw what Declan Doyle did. And he helped, I'm sure, he helped Declan Doyle with a lot of those tasks. So, understanding that I'm the OC, I'm going to be required to be able to do all of these things. Like I talked about when we first started talking about this conversation, right? The game plan, the installs, all the film study, the breakdowns, everything, right? It's a lot of work, but I'm not going to be able to call the plays. And you've got to humble yourself and be willing to take that opportunity, because here's the thing, right? When you have that OC title, but yet you're not calling plays. But when you have a successful offense, teams see that and they want to I need that coach. I need that coach. Why do you think Declan Doyle became the Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator without play calling experience? Because they know he was an integral part of this Bears offensive success this year. And he was in, like I said, being under Sean Payton, right? Having a year under Ben Johnson. They say, okay, he learned a lot. He's very bright. He knows what he's talking about. But now let's go out here, and I think he can really be one of the next guys in line in terms of being a good play caller or being a young up and coming OC because of the experiences he's had and the guys that he's learned under. And I think you look at Press Taylor, a guy who's had that type of experience, but he's in house. He understands what the requirements are, or what the requirements will be under the title of OC under Ben Johnson. And you look at the guy Connor, I think it's a matter of, I think when you're talking about the Senior Bowl, he can give you a little bit more insight because he was in those meeting rooms and calling the plays for those guys. But at the same time, you got to make sure that, he's able to handle all the responsibilities that you're going to require him to do as the OC, but not technically be the OC.
Yeah, it's a tough position to be in. It's probably going to be one of the tougher positions to fill, which is why it's taking a little bit more time, because you've got to find somebody, like you said, that's going to be humble enough to say, it's okay that I'm not calling plays. I want to learn. And we thought that may be Declan Doyle for one more year, but with him getting this job, it's going to be interesting to see kind of what direction the Bears go. I don't know if you've had to deal with this, but as far as I'm sure you've seen it with coaching changes and things like that. How hard is it to navigate the politics of it, right? Because there are guys like Press Taylor's probably like, bro, I just watched this dude do this job all last year. I can do this job.
Yeah.
And yet there's still outside the organization interviews that Ben Johnson is looking to have with guys because he's looking for the best guy, maybe not the guy that was next in line to be that guy.
It's human nature. Like, coaches are going to have feelings, especially like Ben Johnson. Like, when he came in, he said, I didn't hire any of my friends. I'm sure that some of his friends that were coaches, like, oh, Ben got the job. I know my phone's about to ring. I'm
Will Long was ready to quit last year.
Right, man. Ben Johnson, we go way back. He's got a running back coach job. I know J-Mac's phone's going to ring. He hired Eric Bieniemy. I'm going to delete Ben's number. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm deleting Ben's number. So I'm sure there's feelings involved, but at the end of the day, I think when you look at like Press, at the end of the day, I can do this job. And if he interviews for it, I'm sure he'll interview well because he knows exactly what's needed. He knows he can handle, and he's probably handled a lot of those responsibilities last year as well. But the thing is, when you're, for Ben, it's just getting the right fit. That's still a position in which you're doing a lot of development. You're doing a lot of teaching, and you've got to be able to command a room. You've got to be able to sit up at the podium and answer the hard questions. Like we saw, Declan was phenomenal in terms of meeting the media. We know he can command a room because Ben Johnson gave him praise every single time he was up at the podium talking about the work that Declan Doyle did. And he talked about, like Ben knew he was going to get this opportunity because of how good he was. And I think, honestly, when you go back and look at it, I think Doyle was better than what Ben expected. You know what I'm saying? When he came over. So, yeah. And here's the thing: if you're a young, upcoming, offensive coach, and you have aspirations of being a coordinator, I mean, in my opinion, even if you don't have the opportunity to call plays, this should be a highly coveted position because I know if I come here and I'm learning from Ben, and Ben has had a history of offenses doing really well, our offense will do well. I'm learning, and I'm going to get an opportunity because our offense is going to be really good in a year or two to be able to be my own coordinator and call plays. But now I'm learning from another guy that's had sustained success calling plays and operating offenses in the league. So it's invaluable, I think. And I think if you're a young coach and you can humble yourself and you're willing to learn and develop, then this would be a highly coveted job.
And listen, we've seen what happens with J-Mac, listen, you just got to throw your name in there, brother. They looking for coaches.
I sit there and call me for the running back job, right? Hey, call me, Ben.
No, I think it's going to be, to me, like I look at, how he's built this coaching staff up, and it hasn't been about friendship. It hasn't been about, trying to find a guy that he's comfortable with. It's been about best fit. And I think that's why you saw such a jump from this team last season. I think that's why you saw such an improvement from this team last season, because it wasn't about, okay, who's Caleb most comfortable with in the room. It's about who's going to be the best player for us to throw the ball to on this play. There's so much that Ben Johnson brings when you talk about experience, when you talk about coaching staffs. And I would say, look around the league, right? Like, Sean McVay has how many guys who were his OC or his quality control guy that are now head coaches in the league? Both LaFleur brothers are now head coaches in this NFL because of working with Sean McVay.
And here's to show you, it shows you how good of a coach Sean McVay is, because what happens? There's no drop off. Yeah. Next man up, next man develop. Offense team still does well. Offense still does well. It's one game away from the Super Bowl this year. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, this is, yeah, man.
You got a long way to go still, but I think that you're on the right path, and getting the right coaches in the building is going to be a big difference in that. One thing that we want to finish up on here, and hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. That I do find interesting, right? Because of all of the OCs and different things like that. It's going to be interesting to me to see kind of what direction this Bears team goes in the draft this year. I think all of us are locked in on defense. I know I am. I don't want you to get a defensive lineman, but your head coach is an offensive guy. And we saw last season, while we were screaming for defense, your head coach was very much an offensive guy. J-Mac, is there any chance that the Bears don't go defense early in the draft this year? We have heard that they want to take a look at that, but realistically speaking, Ozzie Trapillo's a big loss for this team not being able to play next year.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, right? They got the 25th pick in the first round. You got to look at who's going to be available. Obviously there's needs, in my opinion, at DN, safety, depending on what Jaquan Brisker and Kevin Byard, that situation. And then obviously left tackle with the Trapillo injury. And it just goes to show you, right? Even in the playoff game, you had Theo Bennett, a guy who came out of training camp, was the hot name, got the first crack at it. And then obviously Ozzie came in and took over. And it goes to show you, like, it makes you wonder, right, with Theo, it's like, they didn't really have any confidence in, because you moved Joe Tooney to left tackle in the biggest game of the season. So that's definitely a big hole there, on this offense, is solidifying that left tackle position. But it's just a matter of, I think what's available and how highly you may covet a particular player based upon that position, because you need another DN, you need another interior, you need another D lineman, right? Whether it's inside, outside, to get, more pressure on the quarterback. Like I said, depending on the contract situations, what you're doing for agency, you're probably going to need a safety, and then, left tackle as well. So, I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do. If they go left tackle at 25, I think it's going to be a guy who they just like, we got to have this guy. Yeah. We can get defense.
He has to blow you away.
Yes, like this guy, because we don't know how long Ozzie's going to be out now. And here's the thing. You can't forecast how Ozzie will be after coming back from injury. And it's just unfortunate, because he was a young guy whose era was, really projecting upward and had that unfortunate injury. So I don't know if Ozzie Trapillo will be, we want him to be better than he was, but I don't know how he's going to come back from that injury and how long it's going to be. So you have a big hole there at left tackle.
And realistically speaking, not to say you can't, you shouldn't go out and fix it at other positions. I agree with you. I think you need a defensive end for sure. I'm probably ready to say it, although I really want him to work out. He's got another year here, but you probably need somebody to step in, and maybe that's Shamar Turner, who's already on the team, but to step in where Javon is right now. Javon just has not taken that next step. He's a fine player for you to have on your defensive line. What he finished with 5.5 sacks this season. I think and Yurko talked about this yesterday on the pod, and I thought this was a very key. He talked about how one of the coaches talked with him was big on sacks are great, but pressure forces sacks to happen. The one thing we haven't seen from Javon, consistent enough in my book, and really from the defensive interior overall, is that pressure up the middle. We know that's what has made Jordan Love very uncomfortable in his career. What's made Jared Goff very uncomfortable in his career. The Vikings don't have a quarterback anymore.
Pressure.
That's rough right there. What the Vikings got going on. But pressure up the middle. I mean, when Tom Brady, the few times he had to deal with it, faced pressure up the middle, it really disrupted the level of quarterback that he was.
Well, look at the Giants.
That has to be massive.
The Giants beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl because they had 5 sacks, I think, that game.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, right? Pressure, right, leads to takeaways, strip sacks, interceptions. You know what I'm saying? It like that's because of pressure. And like you're talking about, being able to dent the middle of that pocket on the interior is very important, because now, if you have edge pressure, that quarterback can step up and still be effective if he's a good quarterback. Now, if you have edge pressure and you're denting the middle of that pocket, he has nowhere to step up, and that's when all the good stuff happens for defense. And having that inconsistency there is, it's very tough. It puts a lot of stress on the secondary, when you don't have consistent pressure on a quarterback, whether it's inside or outside. So that's what makes you wonder, like, I got to go back and look at the board, but you hear Ryan Poles talk about there's so many good players in this draft with a lot of talent. So it's like, hey, at 25, if there's a DN that I just got to have, or there's a, defensive tackle that I got to have that I just know and I'm convicted they can come in and be a key contributor and make an impact, then you go there. But if there isn't, or if there's a bunch of those guys and you say, you know what, he may not be the number one guy on my board. He may be the number 4, but I still think he's just as good as the number 1 guy. And we have that left tackle at 25. I can take that left tackle who we really need at 25 and then get, a guy or that D tackle or DN who's maybe a little bit further down our board, but you have a high grade and you feel that it's a high ceiling that can come in and contribute right away. And then you get that guy in this, I don't know how many picks they got in the second round. Maybe 1, 2. I don't know.
I think we just have one for everything this year because we didn't get no comp picks out here. A little dirty, a little chicane.
Yeah, it was crazy. But I'm saying you can maybe get that guy if you feel like there's an abundance of good defensive linemen in the second or third round who you feel could come in and contribute. Hell, and I know I'm different side of the ball, but hell, you found Kyle Monunga in the late round to contribute. Yeah. So, that's kind of the card. That's what you play. That's why Ryan Poles and his guys.
If I had to rank it, J-Mac, I probably would go defensive interior. I probably would go defensive exterior and left tackle as most important positions that you got to draft there 1 through 3. And the good thing is you have your full slate of picks outside of, I believe, your 6th round pick. So round 1, you want to go defensive tackle? Love it. Round 2, you want to go edge? Love it. Round 3, you want to and this is going to be the draft that really shows, okay, well, how good of a GM or how good of a scouting department do we really have? Because we've had a department that, not to say that it's easy, but you've been picking in the top 10 a lot. You picked very early in the draft a lot. Great GMs, the Howie Rosemans, the Bill Belichick's. They find the guys that are the gems that everybody looks around and goes, how did we miss this dude?
Yeah.
At 25 through 31 because they're making deep playoff runs every year.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to see, right? You had a really good draft last year, right?
Great draft,
Bird and Loveland, Monunga, and Trapilo, like wow.
Arguably the best draft in the league this year, honestly.
So it's so important with the level of success you had this year, right? To be able to have another good draft on top of that, to be able to have a sustained level of success, to help you get to that next step, right? Like right now, I mean, you look at this team, you're like, well, playoffs is the minimum. Like we got to make the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be interesting to see if he can do that. And I think with like that's a lot of pressure, on Poles and company, Poles and the scouts and stuff like that. Being able to make the right picks and being able to get the right guys in here that can contribute and fill holes that you're going to have on this roster, because you still got a really good roster. You got the head coach in place, and it's just good to be able to really focus in on the draft this year and not have to worry about a head coach, a coaching staff, and worry about are we getting the right guys in the Bears uniform to come contribute this year.
Hey, J-Mac, we said it on the post game show a ton, man. It's the Super Bowl is next week, and we haven't really dived into the draft at all. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and
usually at this point we sit there and we like, I know everything there is to know about this player.
Yeah, I think the one interesting thing too is, I would love to understand like what Ryan Poles' philosophy, him and his scouting staff, and a buddy of mine used to scout for the Patriots, right? And I asked him, I said, hey, why are you guys so good each and every year? And he told me, he's like, J-Mac, it's not about like a lot of these teams, right? And they look at guys and they say, okay, he can't do this. He can't run a 4.5. He can't do this. He can't do this. So we look at guys and say, what can they do? Right? Guys who may be slotted and may be available for them. What can he do based upon what we do or what we're going to focus on in our scheme, right? If we're an offense that's going to run a lot of slant routes, a lot of quick game, well, hey, I know he's not a 4-3 guy, so I know he's not going to beat anybody with speed. We don't need him to run go routes or take the top off of defense. We need him to be the best slant route runner, right, in the league, whether it's press coverage, whether it's against zone, finding and avoiding the zone. We need him to be the best intermediate route runner, in terms of from a wide receiver standpoint.
That's what he's great at.
That's what we're looking for. And that guy may be the 7th or 8th wide receiver that nobody's looking at because he doesn't have the wow measurables that people look at. So then you see the Patriots take that guy, and next thing you know, he's a star because he's perfect for their scheme and what they're going to do. So that's why I always wonder, like, what are these teams' philosophy? You know what I mean? In terms of when they're looking at players, do you got to have a guy that has measurables? I got to have a DN that's this big, this fast, whatever. But can he pass rush? Does he get pressure? He looks good. He looks good at the combine. He looks like a gladiator when he's up there, you know, at the combine on the stage and everybody's, you know, weighing him and checking him out and stuff like that. But can he pass rush?
Yeah. J-Mac, I'll never forget watching a guy like Shea McClellan in the Super Bowl. And I'm just like, what the heck? He's actually on the field. This guy was terrible for us here.
Hey, man.
You see him in the Super Bowl, and it's just like, I need you to cover the run because you're the most athletic person I have on this team. Just make sure he don't get out. You do that, and you're going to win a Super Bowl ring. Guess what? This fool won a Super Bowl ring. And it's because he just went out there and did his job the right way, a job that the Bears were asking him to do, but with a bunch of other stuff piled on top of it. So you
utilized him based upon what the strength of his skill set was. You know what I mean? And that's he
was on the field for like 10 plays, 15 plays. But those 15 plays were like, you do that, you get a ring.
Yeah, so that's why it's always interesting to see, like, you know, when the draft grades come out, and, you know, all these guys have draft grades. Oh, the Bears got an F in the draft and this and that. Like, I know we probably had some pretty bad draft grades last year, but you just don't know, right? One, you don't know how these guys are going to pan out, but I think, you know, you got to draft for what you're going to do, right? We know what Ben Johnson did this year, so we know we need guys that have a level of physicality, right? We know we don't have to have a back that runs a 4.3 because Kyle Monangai didn't run no 4.3. But guess what? When he broke tackles or ran through a tackle, he was running a 4.3.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's
hey, he'll 4.3 in short bursts where he can light you up and keep going.
So big off season for, you know, as always, you know, for Ryan Poles.
I would say just as big as now. You need less, right? Tight end is crossed off the list. Quarterback's off the list. Head coach is off the list. We're not talking about that. Wide receiver is off the list. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that I think that you can check off the list this year, and you're not looking in nearly as many spots. Really, you just need to improve your trenches because defensive line. You improve the defensive line, your linebackers are going to be better. The DBs are going to be better, right? It's all 11 guys working together and getting better in that sense. So I think you're looking for less, but I think you still need to have just as perfect of an offseason as you had last season, because on the defensive side, it's a lot harder to do when you got no money to spend. You're doing this via the draft more than likely, and maybe some creative cap on a couple of pieces, but we'll see what ends up happening. Hopefully, we're talking about a great draft here coming up. Hopefully, we're talking about a very fun Super Bowl. Who you got in the Super Bowl, J-Man?
Man, I like Seattle, man. I'm going with I like Seattle, man. A couple, you know, Devin Witherspoon's a hometown guy from the Pensacola, Florida. So a guy who, and here's the thing, I love it, right? Because, you know, a lot of guys, a lot of great players will come out of Pensacola, right? Small city. Everybody's like, where is it? Well, 2 Hall of Famers, you know, Emmitt Smith, Derrick Brooks, you know, Doug Baldwin's from my high school, another great Seattle Seahawk. So many guys that have come out. Trent Richardson, we can keep going on and on. Albert Morris, we got so many guys. Cortland Finnegan. I mean, and that's just football. Every sport, and it's a hard-nosed, blue-collar town where, you know, guys are trying to get it. And he's another young guy that came out, no stars, not highly ranked, went to U of I, bald, became a first-round draft pick, bald. You know, I was going to say Pro Bowler.
Calm down now. Calm down now, Jay.
I don't want to say that. I mean, his play has dictated him to go to the Pro Bowl. I would say that the way he's played, but I'm not going to. But here's a guy who's just earned everything he's had, right? Yeah. So, I mean, he's a beast on the field, but I just think that defense is so physical, man. I love watching defense play. It's like that ball's out there like a bunch of piranha. Like, you talk about populating football, you know, being physical, setting the standard, setting the tone. It reminds you of the Legion of Boom back in the day a little bit. So if Sam Darnold plays well like he did, you know, that last game, I think it's going to be tough for the Patriots. Especially, you still got a young quarterback. I know Drake Mays had a great year, but man, this defense is ridiculous.
It's a dominant defense. It feels too familiar, J-Mac. I'm going Patriots. I told your coach yesterday, it feels too familiar. But you got the head coach who he doesn't have it as a coach, right? But as a player, he's been in this game multiple times. You've got the offensive coordinator who has been the coordinator for multiple Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Like this, it just feels like the conversations that we had with Tom Brady all the time before he started, like, I guess probably the fourth Super Bowl when people started kind of letting it go. Like maybe he's just that good. But remember early on, everybody was like, I don't know, Brady guy, is he going to be able to ball out? He going to be able to beat this defense? And then
I think go either way.
Yeah.
I think go either way, Pat. I wouldn't be surprised. Like the good thing, I think you got a Super Bowl in which you got, the two most physically dominant teams, right? And I think this game is going to come down. It's going to be awesome to watch the trenches in this game. 100%. Really good trenches for both teams. So I think it's going to be a good Super Bowl. Weather shouldn't be a factor out there in San Fran, beautiful stadium. It's going to be a good one, man.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. This is a ball knower Super Bowl. That's what I call it, right? If you can name 10 names on either team, you a ball knower. So shout out to you, because that's kind of what ain't no superstars in this. You're not getting Brady. You're not getting Mahomes. You're not getting Hurts. You're not getting Brown. You're like, we got who? Make sure you saying Jigba right. Don't miss it. Don't mess it up on the broadcast. Hey, man, we appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love as always. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. For Jason McKie, it's your boy Pat the Designer. Back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bear down. One love. Peace.